I was clearly the last remaining Emperor Realm cultivator in the entire world, yet I chose to live like an ordinary mortal, hiding deep within the mountains for 100 years. Whenever I traveled, I never flew. Whenever I hunted, I only used a bow and arrows. The reason was simple. Back when I was about to break through the Emperor Realm and finally escape this cursed mountain, that damned system suddenly informed me that this world could not withstand the power of an Emperor Realm expert. As a result, I was forbidden from leaving the mountain. Then one day, everything changed. A beautiful young woman fled into my territory while being chased by 3 burly men. At that very moment, the system issued a mandatory mission. Save this woman, and you will be able to break through the Emperor Realm. Without hesitation, I accepted. But the moment I stepped out of my wooden cabin, the damned system instantly sealed all of my cultivation. Just like that, what was supposed to be me saving someone turned into the woman protecting me the entire time. Only after I returned to my cabin did my aura suddenly erupt once again. With a casual wave of my hand, the 3 pursuers were completely erased from existence. Before the woman could even process what had happened, she lost consciousness. In order to save her, I directly demanded a healing divine medicine from the system. However, to my utter disbelief, the damned system gave me a dragon phoenix pill instead. As a result, my innocent life was completely ruined, and the woman ended up holding a grudge against me. After recovering from her injuries, she glared at me viciously before turning around and leaving. I thought I would never see her again in this lifetime. Yet 2 years later, a general from an Imperial dynasty suddenly arrived and placed a baby girl into my arms. "This is your daughter," he said before hurriedly leaving. At the same time, inside a magnificent palace located tens of thousands of miles away, an incomparably beautiful woman sat upon the Imperial throne. She was none other than Shen Qiqi, the reigning empress of the Qingyu dynasty. 2 years ago, she had encountered a cultivation bottleneck and ventured deep into the mountains in search of a breakthrough. Unexpectedly, she was ambushed by experts from 3 rival dynasties. Thinking about those events made her grit her teeth as an overwhelming aura burst uncontrollably from her body. "Bastard," she muttered coldly. "If I weren't worried that the 3 dynasties would target my daughter, I would never have entrusted her to a scoundrel like you. Once I finish dealing with those dynasties, I will personally bring my daughter back, and when that day comes, I will make you pay the price." Meanwhile, after running several checks, the system confirmed that the baby was indeed my biological daughter. As a first-time father, I felt a happiness unlike anything I had ever experienced before. But the little girl resting in my arms did not share those feelings. Her name was Shen Qingqing. In this life, she was the daughter of the Qingyu dynasty's empress, but in her previous life, she had been a mighty king realm expert known as the Moonfall King. During an expedition into an ancient emperor's secret realm, she had been ambushed by 5 king realm cultivators and ultimately perished. Inwardly, she seethed with rage. "Just you wait. When I regain my former strength, I'll throw every one of you into the heavenly prison and make sure you never enter reincarnation again." Seeing the fierce look in my daughter's eyes, I mistakenly thought she was hungry, so I quickly took a bottle of beast milk from the system and brought it toward her mouth. Shen Qingqing, who had still been immersed in memories of her previous life, was startled by my sudden action. Unfortunately, she could only babble like an infant. In her heart, she shouted, "Mortal, what are you doing? What are you putting into my mouth?" Time continued to pass, and I knew that when cultivators of the lower world reached the 9th layer of the Earth realm, they would be forcibly sent to the upper world by the heavenly Tao, because this world could not bear the power of stronger experts. I was different. When I broke through to the Earth realm many years ago, the system rewarded me with a special robe capable of concealing everything about me. It was around this time that little Shen Qingqing came running toward me with a worn-out old book clutched in both hands. She waddled adorably as she approached. In her mind, she wondered, is what's written in this book really true? Since she still could not speak, only incoherent babbling came from her mouth. Although I was puzzled, I still accepted the book she handed over. The title read, "Records of the Upper World." I immediately recognized it. Several years ago, I had obtained it through a sign-in reward. The book recorded many major events that had occurred in the upper world. Smiling gently, I picked up my daughter and held her in my arms. Then I looked at her and said, "The name of this book is Records. Inside it are many, many little stories. Little stories about the upper world." Shen Qingqing was clearly trying to ask, is everything written in this book actually true? But the more she thought about it, the angrier she became. Her soft little chubby hand suddenly swung toward my face in frustration. To her, it was an angry slap, but to me it felt no different from a gentle caress. Smiling, I held her close and said, "Come here, my good daughter. Daddy will read it to you. The stories in this book are very interesting." As I opened the book, it just so happened to land on the exact page she had been reading 10 minutes earlier. 4 large characters immediately entered my sight. Moonfall King. I pointed at the page and said, Look, my daughter, this person here is the famous Moonfall King. Isn't she beautiful? The moment Shen Qingqing saw the page, her eyes widened. I began reading aloud. The Moonfall King was born as the saintess of the Moonfall clan in the upper world. She possessed the heavenly spirit sacred body. 3,000 years ago, shortly after reaching the King Realm, she defeated countless veteran King Realm experts and forced them to kneel and beg for mercy. 1,000 years ago, when the King Realm secret realm opened, she entered alone. Unfortunately, she was ambushed by 5 King Realm experts and was ultimately defeated. As Shen Qingqing stared at the records, her small body trembled slightly. Deep inside, she was shocked. It's all true. Have I really been dead for so many years? She hurriedly flipped through more pages and soon found a record from the period closest to her death. Lan Gonghua advanced to the Emperor Realm. 1,000 years ago, he joined forces with 5 King Realm experts to kill the once glorious Moonfall King and ultimately obtained her inheritance. The moment Shen Qingqing saw the familiar face in the illustration, a face she could never forget, her chubby little hand clenched tightly into a fist. In a fit of anger, she punched the portrait directly in the head. Instantly, a terrifying sword aura descended from the heavens. The entire sky seemed to fall silent beneath its pressure. A heavenly punishment had been triggered. In the void above, an enormous sword pointed directly at Shen Qingqing. A solemn will seemed to echo through the heavens. The emperor must not be insulted. At that moment, a low voice left my mouth. I simply uttered a single word, and the giant sword shattered instantly. Shen Qingqing froze in disbelief. She immediately realized that the sword aura had been targeting her. Although the power had been relatively weak, it was undeniably a heavenly punishment brought about by disrespecting an Emperor Realm expert. Yet her cheap father had dispersed that punishment with nothing more than a single word. Meanwhile, I gently rubbed her head and comforted her. It's okay, my daughter. Daddy is here. Don't be afraid. Just like that, 2 years passed in the blink of an eye. The two of us lived peacefully inside the mountain, enjoying a life that resembled a paradise, isolated from the world. Outside the mountain, however, chaos reigned. Shen Qiqi, the empress of the Qingyu dynasty, launched a fierce campaign against the 3 great dynasties. In only 2 years, she completely destroyed them. Even after the war ended, the remnants left behind required a long time to stabilize and recover. Compared to the peaceful life I lived in the mountains, the contrast could not have been greater. Another year passed. On that day, I was standing in the courtyard with a massive iron cauldron set up in front of me. Inside the cauldron were the blood essences of countless divine beasts that I had spent enormous effort collecting. Today was my daughter's 4th birthday, and it was also the day her physique would awaken. Shen Qingqing had just finished her cultivation when she stepped outside and saw me standing there, stirring the giant pot with a large ladle. A strange expression instantly appeared on her face. Looking at me, she seemed to ask, "Father, what are you doing?" I casually replied, "Nothing much. Isn't today your birthday? I'm making some soup for you." Shen Qingqing immediately stared at the enormous cauldron. Good heavens, using a pot this big to make soup? I think father is planning to cook me instead. Of course, she only dared to complain in her heart. After all, her father in this life was truly absurd. Throughout all these years, she had never actually seen me fight. Every day, all I seemed to do was sleep, rest, and enjoy life. Yet she knew one thing for certain. I was unbelievably powerful. Today was the day her physique would awaken, and she had actually come to discuss it with me. In this life, she possessed an innate Tao body, a physique even stronger than the heavenly spirit sacred body she had in her previous life. However, awakening it required terrifying resources. If she wanted to return to the upper world and take revenge, she had to awaken this physique no matter what. Suddenly, a terrifying aura burst forth from the cauldron I had prepared. The moment Shen Qingqing sensed it, she instinctively retreated several steps. "That's the aura of a heavenly demon phoenix," she exclaimed inwardly. A gigantic phoenix phantom emerged above the cauldron, radiating an overwhelming pressure that made one's soul tremble. Shen Qingqing was completely confused. The heavenly demon phoenix clan was famous for protecting its own. Even a pregnant heavenly demon phoenix would burn every drop of its blood before allowing anyone to harm its offspring. Moreover, even the weakest heavenly demon phoenix possessed at least the cultivation of an immortal king. Yet the phoenix phantom before her emitted an aura that far surpassed an immortal king. Her thoughts instantly became chaotic. Could father actually be an immortal emperor? Or perhaps an existence even higher than that? She didn't dare continue thinking about it. The possibility was simply too ridiculous. As I noticed the frightened look on my daughter's face, I couldn't help but feel concerned. Seeing the frightened look on my daughter's face, I immediately put down the ladle in my hand and hurried over to comfort her personally. I was genuinely worried that she might become too scared to enter the cauldron and awaken her physique. Gently patting her head, I said, Don't be afraid, sweetheart. The monster you just saw is a heavenly demon phoenix, but what you're seeing here is only a portion of its blood essence. There's nothing to worry about. After saying that, I turned around and walked a short distance away. After all, entering the cauldron required removing one's clothes, and my daughter was growing up. The moment I turned my back, Shen Qingqing moved with astonishing speed and jumped directly into the boiling cauldron. In an instant, the heavens changed. The clear sky, stretching for thousands of miles, vanished completely as endless dark clouds gathered overhead. Tens of thousands of lightning bolts descended upon the mountain range, transforming the entire area into a scene resembling the end of the world. Powerful cultivators throughout the region were stunned. What's happening? Many wondered. Why is all the spiritual energy in heaven and earth gathering toward a single location? Could some supreme treasure have been born? Numerous nearby cultivators sensed the anomaly, yet not a single one dared approach. They had personally witnessed a cultivator attempt to get closer, only to be struck dead by lightning before reaching the mountain. At the same time, Shenchiki received the news and immediately set out. Her 7th layer Earth Realm cultivation erupted without the slightest concealment. She had no interest in any heavenly treasure. The only thing she wanted was to safely bring her daughter home and kill the bastard who had taken advantage of her years ago. However, just as she approached the nameless mountain and was less than 10 miles away, 3 figures suddenly blocked her path. "Your Majesty, please wait." The 3 men were elders from the Kongai Spirit Academy of the northern region, each possessing cultivation around the 3rd layer of the Earth Realm. Shen Qiqi narrowed her eyes and coldly asked, "Since when did matters of the southern region become the business of the northern region?" After destroying the 3 great dynasties, the Qingyu dynasty had become the strongest force on the surface of the entire southern region. The reason it was only considered the strongest on the surface was because cultivators were masters of hiding. Nobody knew how many old monsters were secretly lurking in the shadows. One of the elders smiled and replied, "Your Majesty is joking. Treasures under heaven belong to those destined to obtain them. How can ownership be decided beforehand?" Shenchiki's expression turned icy. "Get out of my way. I have absolutely no interest in whatever opportunity lies inside. I only want to bring my daughter out." Her words were not directed solely at the 3 elders standing before her. They were also meant for the hidden emperors watching from the shadows. Unfortunately, nobody believed her. The aura emanating from the mountain was simply too overwhelming. Merely the pressure from its manifestations was enough to make them struggle to breathe. In their eyes, the treasure inside was likely connected to the legendary immortal realm itself. The path of mortals was vast, but the path of immortality was even more unfathomable. None of them could afford to ignore such an opportunity. Seeing that no one responded, and that the 3 elders still refused to move aside, Shenchichi realized she could not wait any longer. The longer she delayed, the more experts would arrive. Her aura exploded, as she coldly declared, "Cut off 1 arm each and leave. I am showing respect to Wujizi by sparing your lives. Now get out of my sight." Just as she was about to force her way into the mountain once again, a voice suddenly echoed from the heavens. The Empress truly lives up to her reputation. However, treasures beneath heaven belong to those fated to obtain them. Perhaps your Majesty should take a step back. As the voice faded, dozens of powerful auras at the peak of the 3rd palace realm erupted across the sky. The speaker was a man carrying a blood-red bone sword on his back. The moment Shenchiki saw him, her expression darkened. "Even the Dongfang family has come?" What shocked her even more was that they had mobilized so many elite palace realm experts at once. The man was Dongfang Jian, an emperor realm expert whose cultivation had reached the 7th layer. After his arrival, the hidden forces lurking in the shadows could no longer remain patient. One after another, they revealed themselves. Within a short time, 4 late-stage emperor realm experts had gathered. Looking at the terrifying lineup before her, Shenchichi could not help but feel regret. Damn it! I never should have entrusted Qingqing to that bastard. At that moment, an enchanting voice drifted into everyone's ears. "Everyone, why don't we travel together? After all, finding the treasure should be our highest priority right now." The moment the newcomers saw who had spoken, their expressions changed. It was the Azure Hill Fox Demon, the Azure Hill Empress. Just like that, all of the gathered emperors formed a temporary alliance. Outside the mountain, the atmosphere became increasingly tense. Yet none of these peak Emperor Realm experts interested me in the slightest. The only thing I truly worried about when dealing with people like them was accidentally losing control of my strength and destroying the entire world. However, among all the troubles outside, there was one matter that bothered me the most. Shenchiki had arrived. Thinking back to what I had done to her back then, even I had to admit that my actions had been rather shameless. Right at that moment, the heavens shifted once again, and the dark clouds slowly began to disperse. As the dark clouds gradually dispersed, a pillar of light suddenly shot out from Shen Qingqing's body and pierced straight through the heavens. Above the sky, 8 divine beast phantoms appeared, and the terrifying phenomenon instantly shattered the remaining storm clouds. Seeing this, I finally came back to my senses and looked toward my daughter sitting inside the cauldron. My face was filled with pride and affection. In my heart, I could not help but think, my daughter, Shen Qingqing, truly has the bearing of a great emperor. At that exact moment, the system's voice echoed in my mind. Ding! Host's daughter has successfully awakened the innate Tao body. Mission complete. Rewards granted. Emperor-level cultivation technique, Great Tao simplified record, and the Earth Sword, Hoyu. The cultivation technique was self-explanatory. Just from the name alone, I knew it was meant for my daughter. Compared to the technique, however, what interested me more was the Earth Sword Hoyu. According to the system's introduction, the Earth Sword Hoyu had once belonged to the Ziwei Emperor 100,000 years ago. Back then, shortly after advancing into the Emperor realm, the Ziwei Emperor was besieged by 3 veteran Emperor realm experts. Yet with only a single sword in hand, he fought all 3 of them alone. I carefully observed the sword resting in my hand. It was as light as a feather, and a jade-like silver radiance flowed across its blade. My evaluation was simple. It was elegant and beautiful. Just then, a soft and adorable voice pulled me back to reality. Daddy, what is that? Looking down at Shen Qingqing, I smiled and replied, This is one of the birthday gifts Daddy prepared for you, but you can't have it just yet. As I spoke, I stored the Earth Sword away and took out the Great Tao simplified record from my system space. Handing it over, I said, My good daughter, this Emperor-level cultivation technique is Daddy's birthday gift for you. It perfectly matches your physique. Shen Qingqing accepted the technique with a puzzled expression. Looking at me, she asked, Daddy, is my innate Tao body really that powerful? It's actually worthy of being paired with a legendary Emperor-level cultivation technique? I nodded. Very powerful. The innate Tao body is born close to the great Tao itself. Those who possess it can be called daughters of heaven, daughters personally favored by the heavens. Throughout your life, opportunities will continuously come to you, and your future achievements will know no limits. The moment she heard my explanation, excitement immediately appeared on Shen Qingqing's face. She did not fully understand what being a daughter of heaven meant, but she understood one thing very clearly. Being naturally close to the great Tao was an unimaginable advantage. In her previous life, if her understanding of the Tao had been just a little deeper, she never would have risked searching for that emperor inheritance. If she had not sought it, she would not have fallen into an ambush and died beneath the siege of her enemies. Just as Shen Qingqing finished putting away the cultivation technique, a white figure descended into the courtyard from the sky. The newcomer was none other than Shen Qiqi, the empress of the Qingyu dynasty. After entering the mountain with the other experts, she had followed her memories and found her way here. The moment I saw her, panic instantly appeared on my face. Fortunately, Shen Qiqi ignored me completely. She immediately flashed to Shen Qingqing's side, crouched down, and gently asked, My daughter, are you hurt? Looking at the beautiful woman before her, Shen Qingqing knew that this was her mother in this life. A feeling she had never experienced before suddenly emerged within her heart. It was warm, comfortable, and incredibly reassuring. Softly she replied, Mother, I'm fine. In her previous life, she had been born into the Moonfall clan of the upper world. However, her parents had died when she was young. Because of her extraordinary talent, she was later chosen to become the clan's saintess. Yet every Moonfall saintess lived a lonely life. That was the clan's rule. Once someone became a saintess, freedom no longer belonged to them. Family affection was a luxury she could never reach. Therefore, the concern Shen Qiqi showed her now was something she had longed for across 2 lifetimes. Hearing that her daughter was unharmed, Shen Qiqi finally breathed a sigh of relief. Then she glanced sideways at me. I was standing nearby, not even daring to move. Her expression instantly turned cold. If anything had happened to my daughter, I would have killed you. I immediately waved my hands and replied nervously, That would never happen. Watching her parents interact, Shen Qingqing suddenly found the situation amusing. Although she had no idea what had happened between them in the past, the scene somehow felt warm and comforting. At that moment, Shen Qiqi seemed to notice something unusual about her daughter. A mysterious light flashed across her azure eyes. She possessed the Eye of Piercing Truth, an ability capable of seeing through all illusions. Legends claim that when cultivated to perfection, it could even see into the past and future. 4 years ago, when Shen Qingqing was born, an extraordinary heavenly phenomenon had already occurred. Using her Eye of Piercing Truth back then, Shen Qiqi had only been able to determine that her daughter possessed a mysterious physique, unlike anything she had ever seen before. It was stronger than every special physique she had encountered throughout her life combined. Now it seemed that physique had finally awakened. Thinking of this, Shen Qiqi looked at me and asked, Was the phenomenon earlier caused by Qingqing? I nodded. Yes. She immediately continued, What kind of physique is it? Without hesitation, I answered, The innate Tao body. Shen Qiqi's eyes widened slightly. Is it powerful? I nodded once more and replied, Very powerful. And just like that, Shenchichi continued questioning me while I answered one thing after another. Whatever Shenchichi asked, I answered honestly. But after the questions ended, silence once again settled between us. Feeling completely helpless, I turned my gaze toward my precious daughter, silently begging her to help me out of this awkward situation. Surely she could think of something. Unfortunately, after receiving my desperate signal, Shen Qingqing simply gave me an "I can't help you" look. Then she casually said, "Mother, you and father talk. I'll go play for a while," before running off without hesitation. Watching my little padded jacket leak air and abandon me at such a critical moment, I felt my heart sink. Taking a deep breath, I decided to apologize for what happened years ago. About what happened back then, it was actually an accident. Before I could even finish the word accident, a terrifying killing intent burst out from Shenchiki's body. Her eyes instantly turned cold. "You still dare mention it?" Back then, she had pitied me because she thought I was an ordinary mortal. She did not want an innocent person to be dragged into her troubles, which was why she had protected me despite her own injuries. She had nearly died because of it. Yet when she was on the verge of death, the bastard she had been protecting suddenly revealed his true strength and casually wiped out her enemies. That alone would have been fine. But after saving her, I had gone on to do that kind of thing. Thinking about it even now made her furious. Yet she also could not kill me anymore. Qingqing needed a father. As that thought crossed her mind, the killing intent around her gradually faded. Then she carefully looked at my handsome face, raised her delicate hand, and lifted my chin. In a tone that left no room for refusal, she said, "Come back with me and become my husband." I froze. Become your husband? Become your imperial consort? My eyes widened. I was the strongest man in the world. How could I possibly marry into someone else's family? I was just about to loudly reject her when the voice I least wanted to hear suddenly rang out inside my head. Choice 1, return home with your wife. Reward, freedom. Choice 2, refuse to return home with your wife. Punishment, imprisonment for 100,000 years. I stared blankly. Then I stared some more. Finally, I shouted inwardly, "System, are you serious?" In the end, I chose the option that allowed me to preserve the last shred of my dignity. After 100 years trapped within the mountains, I finally gained my freedom and could at last see the outside world. Before long, our family of 3 arrived at the Qingyu dynasty. The moment we entered the imperial court, Shen Qiqi directly announced before all the civil and military officials, "From this day forward, he shall be the imperial lord, and Shen Qingqing shall be the princess." The ministers exchanged bewildered looks. No one had expected the dynasty to suddenly gain both an imperial lord and a 4-year-old princess. However, faced with the domineering empress, none of them dared object. In the end, they could only bow helplessly and say, "Greetings, imperial lord. Greetings, your highness." Afterward, I followed General Ningwu around the palace to familiarize myself with the environment, while Shen Qiqi discussed how to eliminate the remaining remnants of the 3 destroyed dynasties. Only a few hours later, news of the court's events spread throughout the southern region like wildfire. Nobody could believe that the Qingyu dynasty had not only gained an imperial lord, but also a young princess. As for me, the man many commoners secretly regarded as the thief who stole the Empress's heart, I was currently strolling through the academy while being openly admired by countless young women. The Imperial Lord is so handsome. He's even more attractive than Tianhuazi from the Handsome Men rankings. Their whispers followed me everywhere. Then suddenly, a deafening roar shook the heavens. Everyone looked up. A colossal sword manifested in the sky, so massive that even heaven and earth seemed to tremble beneath its presence. Its tip pointed directly at the imperial palace. Immediately afterward, dozens of black-robed figures appeared above the palace. The pressure they released was so overwhelming that countless people nearly fell to their knees. The moment I saw this, my eyes turned cold. How arrogant. Today was the day of my official appointment, yet someone dared come here to cause trouble. With a casual flick of my sleeve, the suffocating pressure vanished without a trace. At the same moment, 2 rays of light shot out from within the academy and entered the imperial palace. Instantly, I recognized their auras. Both experts possessed 8th layer Earth realm cultivation, one realm higher than even Shen Qiqi. However, dense death energy surrounded them, making it obvious that they had already reached the end of their lives and could not progress any further. In the next instant, a man holding black flames appeared before everyone. Looking at the 2 elders, he sneered, "You 2 old fossils actually dare speak so boldly?" The newcomer was none other than Heidi, the only surviving prince of the 3 destroyed dynasties. His true name was Zuo Jiangcheng, and his cultivation had reached the 5th layer of the Emperor Realm. Originally, the Qingyu dynasty had possessed 8 late-stage Emperor Realm experts. However, 6 had died during the wars against the 3 dynasties. Zuo Jiangcheng's purpose for coming here was simple. He wanted the Qingyu dynasty to follow the same path as the 3 fallen dynasties and be completely erased. As his sinister laughter echoed through the sky, thousands of figures rapidly gathered within the imperial city. These were all spies he had secretly planted inside the Qingyu dynasty. Even when the 3 dynasties faced destruction, he had never recalled them. He had saved them for this exact moment. More than 3,000 cultivators appeared. The weakest among them was already in the Qing realm. This was the final trump card he had prepared to destroy the Qingyu dynasty. Had Shen Qiqi not suddenly launched her Imperial war years earlier and disrupted all of his plans, then within 10 years, he could have effortlessly overthrown the entire dynasty. Just then, Shen Qiqi emerged from the Imperial palace. She wore a magnificent crimson robe, and her empress aura instantly suppressed the entire battlefield. Looking at Zuo Jiangcheng, she coldly declared, "You are nothing more than the remaining trash of the three dynasties. Since you've come here today, then leave your life behind." As soon as she finished speaking, a massive chaos fire lotus rose behind her. Its terrifying aura seemed capable of destroying heaven and earth itself. Zuo Jiangcheng's expression darkened, yet he still laughed. "Shen Qiqi, I admit I'm not your opponent. But what if I sacrifice all of my lifespan?" As he spoke, the life force within his body rapidly began to disappear. As Zuo Jiangcheng spoke, the black flame in his hand began expanding at an alarming speed. Within moments, it transformed into a massive death formation that completely surrounded Shen Qiqi. At the same time, the soldiers of the Qingyu dynasty clashed fiercely with the remaining forces of the three fallen dynasties. Staring at Shen Qiqi trapped within the formation, Zuo Jiangcheng laughed and declared, "Shen Qiqi, today is the day you die. It's a pity that I won't be able to witness the destruction of the Qingyu dynasty with my own eyes." The moment those words left his mouth, the last traces of his life force scattered into the wind. Yet his laughter continued echoing across heaven and earth. The black-robed cultivators fighting throughout the battlefield suddenly stopped. Even though they knew they would likely lose their lives, they all turned toward the place where Zuo Jiangcheng had vanished and bowed respectfully. "Farewell, my lord. We will complete the mission." Witnessing this scene, countless members of the Qingyu dynasty could not help but feel moved. Zuo Jiangcheng truly possessed the qualities of a peerless ruler. If he had been born 20 years earlier, no, even 10 years earlier, the Qingyu dynasty might genuinely have fallen to him. Yet Shen Qiqi found something deeply troubling about the situation. Although the formation surrounding her was powerful, it was nowhere near strong enough to kill her. As long as her soldiers held out until she broke through it, the war would be over. There was no way Zuo Jiangcheng hadn't realized this. So why would he sacrifice everything? Just as that question arose in her mind, the sky suddenly tore apart. A figure stepped out from the rift. It was Dongfang Jian. Looking down from above, he calmly said, "I accepted someone's request, so I have come to deliver a sword strike." The next second, an overwhelming sword intent split the heavens apart. Endless sword laws surged forth like a boundless river, flooding the world. It felt as though no living being could survive beneath that sword. At that moment, Shen Qiqi was entirely focused on breaking the formation and had no opportunity to defend herself against the attack coming from behind. The two 8th-layer Emperor Realm Elders immediately erupted with their full power and attempted to break through the encirclement to block the strike with their own lives. However, the black-robed enemies surrounding them understood perfectly that if Shen Qiqi died, the Qingyu dynasty would effectively perish with her. One after another, they chose to self-destruct, sacrificing their lives merely to delay the two elders for a few moments. Just as everyone believed the Empress was doomed, my figure suddenly appeared behind her. The moment I drew the Earth Sword Hoyu, the Emperor's sword's aura erupted. Dongfang Jian's sword energy, which moments ago seemed unstoppable, instantly fled in a direction nobody could comprehend, as if it had encountered its natural predator. Looking toward Dongfang Jian, I calmly said, "You accepted someone's request and delivered a sword strike? In that case, I too have accepted someone's request and will deliver a sword strike of my own. Make sure you catch it." Then I swung my sword. The attack looked completely ordinary. There were no dazzling lights or earth-shattering phenomena. Yet the moment the sword energy appeared, countless cracks spread across space itself. Even the void seemed unable to bear the power hidden within that strike. The next instant, blood rained from the sky. Heaven and earth let out mournful cries. This was a heavenly phenomenon that occurred only when a late-stage Emperor Realm expert perished. Every person in the Qingyu dynasty was horrified. Dongfang Jian was dead. That was Dongfang Jian, the supreme genius of the Dongfang Imperial clan, a man hailed as the greatest talent of the last 3,000 years. Legends said that when he was young, he deliberately destroyed his own eyes because he believed external sights distracted him from pursuing the ultimate path of the sword. Yet such a terrifying individual had been killed by my sword before he could even retaliate. After Dongfang Jian's death, the remnants of the three dynasties completely lost all hope. The war finally came to an end. Through this battle, my reputation exploded across the southern region. Overnight, I transformed from the man people secretly mocked as the thief who stole the Empress into a peerless expert capable of slaying a late-stage Emperor Realm cultivator with a single sword. Meanwhile, within the Dongfang Imperial clan, a soul lamp carrying Dongfang Jian's soul suddenly went out. The clan leader, Dongfang Ming, erupted with the aura of a 9th-layer Emperor Realm expert. His face twisted with fury. "Who was it? Who killed my son? Investigate immediately. I will make them suffer for all eternity." It did not take long for the details of Dongfang Jian's death to arrive. Upon learning the truth, the three ninth-layer Emperor realm ancestors of the Dongfang clan became terrifyingly silent. Dongfang Jian had been the son of the current clan leader. At only 3,000 years old, he had already reached the Emperor realm and was regarded as the person most likely to step into the immortal realm. After all, nobody in this world had become an immortal for an unimaginably long time. 1,000 years ago, however, the prophet Tianjizi had made a shocking prediction. He claimed that the heavenly Tao of this world was incomplete. The immortal path had been severed, yet emperors could still continue appearing. Once the number of emperor realm experts in the world reached a critical point, the immortal path would reopen. Because of that prophecy, the Dongfang clan had poured the strength of their entire family into nurturing Dongfang Jian. They hoped he would one day survive the brutal immortal path and lead their clan to even greater heights. Now that he was dead, everything they had invested had vanished with him. One of the ancestors suddenly stood up. "Qingyu Empress!" His eyes burned with killing intent. "Let me meet this Imperial lord of yours." This man was Dongfang Quang, a terrifying existence who had become an emperor through pure physical strength alone. However, before he could take a single step forward, another elder stopped him. "Fourth brother, don't act recklessly." The speaker was Dongfang Men, the strongest cultivator currently within the Dongfang clan. Yet Dongfang Quang merely snorted coldly. "Recklessly? It's only a Qingyu dynasty." Dongfang Quang's expression remained full of unwillingness as he said, "If our 9 imperial clans cared about fame and reputation, do you really think Shenqiqi, a mere woman, could have unified the southern region?" However, Dongfang Men simply looked at him calmly and asked, "Then let me ask you something. If you fought against Jianer, how confident would you be in winning?" The moment those words were spoken, Dongfang Quang froze. His raised head slowly lowered, and a painful expression appeared on his face. Once again, he experienced that familiar feeling of helplessness. His second brother was right. Against Dongfang Jian, he didn't even have confidence in achieving certain victory. So how could he possibly challenge someone who had killed Dongfang Jian with a single sword? At that moment, the third ancestor of the Dongfang clan, Dongfang Hua, who had remained silent the entire time, suddenly let out a cold snort. "Second brother, are we really going to let this matter go? That man killed Jianer. Anyone capable of slaying him with one sword must possess at least 9th-layer Emperor realm cultivation." Hearing this, Dongfang Men paused briefly. Then his voice turned ice cold. "Of course not. The day the immortal path reopens will be the day he dies." Just like that, 10 years passed in the blink of an eye. During those years, Shenqiqi gave birth to another daughter for me. Her name was Minglinger. As for my eldest daughter, Shen Qingqing, she had already left home 2 years earlier to join the Wengsin sword sect and study swordsmanship. The reason she never learned directly from me was very simple. If she wanted sword techniques, I could give her as many as she wanted. But if she wanted me to actually teach cultivation, all I could do was awkwardly smile. Teaching people was never my strength. One day, little Minglinger tugged on my sleeve and looked at me with watery eyes. "Daddy, I miss Big Sister. Can you take me to see her? Please?" I immediately shook my head. "No, your mother gave strict orders. Until you finish reading all those books she assigned, you're not allowed to go anywhere." Minglinger puffed out her cheeks and stubbornly said, "I don't care. I miss Sister. Daddy, please." Looking at her adorable expression and hearing her sweet voice, I felt my heart melting. It took all my willpower not to agree immediately. However, there was another reason I couldn't take her. Shen Qingqing wasn't in the sword sect anymore. She wasn't even in the lower world. According to the system, 2 days ago, she had entered a secret realm belonging to the Wengsin sword sect. But this wasn't an ordinary secret realm. The Wengsin secret realm was something far more extraordinary.